Bonjour tout le monde, comment ça va? Aujourd'hui, we are going to see the object pronouns with the passé composé. But first, we need to review quickly the object pronouns. So in the first sentence, je mange la pomme. I am eating the apple. To replace the noun and the article la pomme, we are going to use a feminine direct pronoun, la. Je la mange. I am eating it. So it is a direct pronoun because there is no preposition a between the verb mange and la pomme. So we are going to use a direct object pronoun. Notice here that you place the pronoun immediately in front of the verb. Je la mange. Il mange beaucoup de pain. He eats a lot of bread. Here we have de pain, which is de plus a thing, right? And we've seen that in those instances, we are going to use the pronoun en. Il en mange beaucoup. He eats a lot of it. Again, you want to place this pronoun in front of the verb. Elle parle souvent à ses parents. She talks to her parents. Here we have a preposition a, therefore we are going to use an indirect pronoun. We have a noun that is plural, we are going to use leur. Elle leur parle souvent. She speaks to them often. Again, we place the pronoun in front of the verb. If it had been a singular noun, we would have used lui. For example, à sa mère, à son père, etc. Here, last sentence, il ne lit pas le journal. He is not reading the newspaper. So we want to use le here, a direct pronoun masculine that's going to replace le journal. Again, we place that pronoun directly in front of the verb, and the negation, the two parts of the negation surround the verb, and here too. We just need to consider the verb and the pronoun as a block, and we put the negation, the two parts of the negation around that block. So let's see now the object pronouns with the passé composé. So remember that to construct and build the passé composé, you will need to use or avoir, the auxiliary avoir, or être, depending on the verb. For example, partir will use être. Je suis parti. Manger uses avoir. J'ai mangé. So in the sentence here, those verbs are all in the passé composé. Il a visité le musée du Louvre. He visited the Louvre Museum. We want to use le here, direct object pronoun to replace le musée, but since it is in front of a voyelle, we are going to put L apostrophe. And here too, you will put the pronoun in front of the verb and more precisely in front of the auxiliary. Il l'a visité, he visited it. J'ai mangé la pomme, I ate the apple. The pronoun would be la. Je l'ai mangé, same thing here. We have a voyelle. The la becomes L apostrophe. And again, we put the pronoun in front of the auxiliary. Je l'ai mangé, I ate it. We have a feminine here. This is not the subject because you see here we have no agreement. We put that E, the feminine agreement, because of la pomme. So that's a very important rule. When you have a direct object pronoun in front of the avoir auxiliary in passé composé, you will agree the past participle with this direct object. If we had, for example, les pommes, if it had been les pommes, so then would have been feminine plural. it would have been je les ai mangés. Feminine plural. We would agree the past participle with the pronoun because it is in front of the avoir auxiliary. Third sentence. Nous sommes allés en France. We went to France. So we know that when we want to replace a location, place, we're going to use y. Why? Nous y sommes allés. So again, we put the pronoun in front of the auxiliary. It's still in front of the verb, but more precisely in front of the auxiliary. Nous y sommes allés. We went there. Here we have S and S in both sentences. We never agree with why. We agree the past participle with the subject. That's the rule. With the passé composé with être, you agree the past participle with the subject. For example, elle est partie, right? Elle est partie, féminine. So, last sentence, elle n'a pas parlé à ses parents. She did not speak to her parents. Here we have a preposition. We know we are going to use an indirect pronoun. We have a plural noun. We are going to use leur. We put the pronoun in front of the auxiliary, and just like as in the previous sentence, remember that in the passé composé, when you have a negation, the negation goes around the auxiliary. So this is the same thing here, still around the auxiliary, but in front of the auxiliary, you've placed first your pronoun. Same thing here, you want to consider the pronoun at the auxiliary as a block around which you are going to place the two parts of the negation. So here you have a list of sentences, and I would like you to try to translate them as practice. All the sentences are in the passé composé, and you have the different pronouns. So you want to pause the video, and when you're done, you can look at the answers on the following slide. So pause the video and try to translate those sentences. So those are the answers. I saw him. You want to translate je l'ai vu. I saw him. Je l'ai vu. Here we have l'apostrophe, which is really this one. I saw her. Je l'ai vue. That would be la, but in front of avoir, apostrophe, you want to add the e at the end because you want to agree. You see, her, feminine. So here's the feminine in front of the avoir auxiliary, meaning you need to agree the past participle. I did not see it, negative, je ne l'ai pas vu. Alright, it, that's easy, it's here, and it's going to be le in front of avoir, and you want to put the negation around the auxiliary. He sent them a card. Them, c'est envoyer, envoyer à, donc to them. Il leur, right? Indirect, plural. Il leur a envoyé une carte. Leur in front of the auxiliary. They helped them. Ils les ont aidés. So here, to help someone, direct pronoun. Them, les, in front of the auxiliary, and you add that s again because you have a plural, a direct object pronoun, the same thing, the same type of rule, the same, it was a feminine pronoun here, but this is the same rule. Then in sentence number 2, when you have a direct object pronoun in front of avoir, you need to agree the past participle. They did not help them. Ils ne les ont pas aidés. So here we have les for them in front of the auxiliary and the negation around the auxiliary, and we also need to add that s here because of les in front of avoir. Il went there. Il y est allé. You place the y in front of the auxiliary. Être. We went there. Nous y sommes allés. You have an S here because you have a plural subject. You talked to me. Tu m'as parlé. Same thing. M, which is really me, becoming M apostrophe in front of avoir here. Tu m'as parlé. No, I did not talk to you. Non, je ne t'ai pas parlé. Here you place the te in front of the auxiliary, the apostrophe because of the A, and the negation around the auxiliary and the pronoun. And voilà. I hope it helped. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt. Au revoir.